You are watching America Trends, where we cover all the hot topics of the day. I'm Barry Nussbaum, filling in for Dr. G. Our poll question today: do you think the world will be safer under a Trump presidency? Simple answer, yes or no. Vote on that poll at YouTooAmerica.com or the Youtoo America app. Download it if you don't have it already. Coming to us today from Skype in Phoenix, Arizona, is broadcaster at KKNT in Phoenix, my friend Lisa Benson. Lisa is a counterterrorism expert and the president of the Queen Esther Project. Lisa, my good friend, great to have you with us tonight.
Thanks, Barry. It's a pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
Always fun to talk with you. Yes. So you've been following the two ISIS attacks in Mecca, Saudi Arabia. Please explain to our viewers what happened.
Well, you know, it's a series of things that have been happening. We have been so focused on following ISIS that in Iraq and in Syria that we forget that 15 of the hijackers in 9/11 were Saudi Arabian. And the al-Qaeda front is on the move. It is not decimated. It is not dead. We have al-Qaeda in Yemen. We have al-Qaeda in Libya. We have, and let's not forget that Charlie Hebdo was an al-Qaeda attack. Well, Saudi Arabia, who funds al-Qaeda and exports this terror, is in dire straits financially. Human capital is not available. There's very little work for people. They are wards of the state, absolutely. 33% of Saudi Arabians are actually working. And recent polls have said to us, and to us analysts, that 66% of the young people in Saudi Arabia are supporters of extremism, and mostly ISIS. Well, what happened this week, twice in the past week, is that in Mecca, where many of us believe that ISIS wants the caliphate to be headquartered, that would make perfect sense, right, to a caliphate, broke through and was actually, people were killed and ISIS was stopped. But the extremism problem in Saudi Arabia is mounting. And what that means for us in the United States, quite simply, as Saudi Arabia has their backs against the wall, as oil prices drop, as oil reserves go down for them, they are going to look to continue to export terror, and that is never a good thing for us in the United States.
Yeah, Lisa, it's startling that the rumor out of Saudi Arabia is that the Saudi youth are starting to support ISIS now in large numbers. I mean, it's not a minor role anymore. It's a movement. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, it's 66% of the youth population. And it is a movement like any other movement. And so 6,000 princes are Wahhabi princes are in Saudi Arabia. And we had a discussion with intelligence people yesterday. Where do they go? What will happen to them if ISIS takes control of Saudi Arabia? And the question is not where they will go, but where will the terrorism go? And I have been saying for a very long time, and I have said on the air, that we saw in San Bernardino, that it's the ideology of jihad. You know, it doesn't matter. Al-Nusra is in Syria. Today, Al-Nusra, we heard that Al-Nusra in Syria wants to declare a sovereign state of an Al-Qaeda affiliate state, caliphate in Syria. They are on the run. The world is a much more dangerous place now than it ever was. It is an absolute power keg in the Middle East.
Lisa, let's talk about here in the United States. Now, yes. San Bernardino, apparently, and you've said this, that ISIS and Al-Qaeda actually came together in the San Bernardino attack.
That is what we found out early on. We found out days after the attack that ISIS and Al-Qaeda, each one of them had a component in that attack. Because remember, it's the ideology that attracts these Pakistani Deobandis. That's what they were. They were Pakistani Deobandi terrorists, and they are still there in San Bernardino. So whether today they're affiliated with Al-Qaeda or tomorrow they are affiliated with ISIS, it really doesn't matter because they're still percolating the ideology. It's still terror. It's still terror.
All right, so they're here. They're here on our soil.
And I have been on the ground in the Bible Belt for 4 years, and I have uncovered many Deobandi Pakistanis throughout. Not all of them, I would say, is terrorists, but we know that Saudi Arabia has funded 80% of the mosques in America. So Saudi influences are in our mosques. Along them, I have found the clerics who have been educated in Saudi Arabia, and they're fundamentalist Salafi clerics, and they have mosques here in America, and they have full mosques full of people all the time listening to their rhetoric.
So what should we be doing then, as Americans, as we're becoming more aware, especially during the upcoming campaign, to protect ourselves, whether it's dirty bombs or EMP attacks on American soil? Lisa, what should we be the Americans be doing now?
Well, you know that I have, not only do I have a radio show and a nonprofit, but I have a national mobilization in 52 cities called the National Security Task Force of America. And what I tell everybody is that, yes, we're in touch with experts who work with NATO and the United Nations. Dirty bomb is absolutely a threat. It is such a threat that there were meetings being held as of a week ago in the Netherlands about it. We have Dr. Bellamy on our show all the time. She's an expert. So what happens in the United States if a dirty bomb goes off? Well, we would all expect that if we would become sick by radiation poisoning, that we would go to our hospital and we would get medicine for it. Well, the truth is that the United States stockpile has zero, absolutely zero medication for radiation poisoning. That is what we need to do, is to make so much noise that our lawmakers, who are totally oblivious to these things, because you can go in and talk to them and they say, we don't know about training camps, jihad training camps, and we don't really know why the East Coast has no missile defense whatsoever, and why is it that the West Coast has a missile defense that is totally in shambles. This is all part of the Obama doctrine of gutting. Forget about Saudi Arabia being gutted. Our own country has been gutted. And when we depend on this government and our hospitals to have what we need to protect us, Barry, it doesn't exist.
Right,
Let
me circle back. That's scary as heck. Let's circle back to what you mentioned a minute ago. The Saudi Arabia involvement in 9/11 supposedly is going to come out on those missing pages from the 9/11 report from 2001. What do you think is in those redacted pages that may be released in the near future? Any speculation?
I did speak to some analysts, and some say there's something. Some people, it's like there's something, there's nothing, there's nothing. But look, we all know there was no secret that the Bush White House took students and Saudi princes out of the country after 9/11. Many students, there's 6,000 Saudi princes. They send their kids here to get an education. There's a close relationship with Saudi Arabia. They are a crazy ally. It's like Turkey. Turkey and Saudi Arabia are funding Al-Qaeda in Syria. And this is just the complication of every day as it bounces back and forth that we have to understand. What I think is in those papers, I think it's going to be something very damaging, and I think very damaging to both political parties. I think both political parties have been holding hands with a lot of bad people for a long time. We know Al-Qaeda was partially funded by the American government, so it's,
well, I'll tell you what, Lisa, it's going to be real interesting if those papers come out. Let's see what it's going to say. Thanks so much for being with us, and thanks all that you do for us. We really appreciate it, Lisa, very, very much. Keep up the good work.